messing with some raw dudes, wrestling, talking, raw views, previews, recaps, and interviews. Definition of professional, tell me what you expected though. Facts are checked when information's collected, yo. We body slamming all these wrestling brands, but of course that's the case when A&T's on hand. We going head to head, this ain't a ratings war. Now's your chance to chat with Steven, what you waiting for?
Welcome everyone to another episode of Raw Views. My name is Steven, and today I will be talking my final WrestleMania prediction card before the Fastlane pay-per-view, as well as getting to some of your questions and answering them that you sent on Twitter. Thank you so much. If you're not following me on Twitter, @view_raw. Sorry I didn't get this out yesterday. Had some things to take care of, but I'm getting it out to you today, so you can enjoy it all weekend long before my Monday episode and my SmackDown recap show. But today, let's jump into it. Let's talk WrestleMania. A lot of interesting things are happening. We have two matches already set in stone. Bianca Belair taking on Sasha Banks for the SmackDown Women's Championship, and Roman Reigns taking on Edge for the Universal Championship. So both major SmackDown titles have been taken care of, and I believe both of those matches will main event different nights. I think Roman and Edge main event night 2. I think Bianca and Sasha Banks main event night 1 of WrestleMania. It should come as no surprise. I actually told somebody on a phone call, I think Bianca and Sasha could definitely main event, and with them announcing it this far in advance and being one of the major promotional tools to sell out WrestleMania, I believe they will get the main event of the first night of WrestleMania. And I think you saw a lot of people wanting to see that on social media, and I think WWE should do it and will do it. You can give Sasha a fantastic entrance, you can give Bianca a fantastic entrance, and really tell a story over the next 5-6 weeks at this point. Between the two, whether they keep them both as baby faces or they go ahead and have Sasha turn, it'll be interesting to see which way they go there. But all in all, I think both Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks, as well as Roman and Edge, both main event WrestleMania. So let's take care of the rest of night 1. We know the two major title matches for the SmackDown brand, but what about the Raw brand? I have been talking on my Tuesday shows a lot about the different paths WWE could take going into WrestleMania, including upcoming at Fastlane. I predicted 2 weeks ago that there would be a triple threat at Fastlane after The Miz won the championship, and I still think that. I think Drew gets involved with Lashley and Miz this Monday, and I think that leads to a triple threat at Fastlane, where Miz thinks he is once again escaped with the championship. However, this time he's now positioned where he is going to take on both Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre. And so as I start piecing together all the pieces and using logic and you know, here's some things I don't know, right? If The Miz is currently killing it as champion, he's doing all the promotional things. People seem to be really taking to the storyline. He is absolutely great on the microphone when he gets into this space specifically. So I don't know if maybe they pull him from that Bad Bunny Priest match and start pushing Priest and Bad Bunny to somewhere else, right? Like Elias and Riker could be an easy WrestleMania win for these guys. Elias is a singer, Bad Bunny is a famous musician. It kind of writes itself. You could also push Bad Bunny with that championship being targeted by like the Hurt Business, right? Where Damian Priest and Bad Bunny takes on the Hurt Business and maybe even become tag team champions. I mean, we saw Braun Strowman win with an 8-year-old a few years ago. But I'm going to stick the course. I believe Miz loses at Fastlane. Bad Bunny, makes a snide remark that he's held his championship that's defended 24 hours longer than the Miz has held the WWE Championship, and that pushes that feud even more into the spotlight. If nothing else, I think Miz becoming WWE Champion, if he does go into this tag match, it only elevates Damian Priest even more. So I'm going to continue to go that route. And then I have Drew and Sheamus still unresolved with only 5 weeks left. And that's where I'm having the biggest hang up, because I think a lot of people believe we are getting to Lashley Drew at WrestleMania, and I just don't see a singles match with those two happening. Now, could I see a multi-person match with both Lashley and Drew in the match? Absolutely. Instead, I'm going to go a bit off the board. I'm going to go a path that I haven't even brought up yet. Assuming Lesnar is not available. That's another assumption I'm making here. So I'm going to assume Lesnar is not performing at WrestleMania. Instead, I think we are going to get Sheamus in some capacity costing Drew the championship, leading to, Lashley then tapping out Miz. Lashley maybe on that go-home show with Drew gives him a title opportunity where Sheamus cost him again the championship. And now we are set up for, Drew and Sheamus in, some sort of no DQ street fight. There will be no barbed wire involved. Sorry, folks, but in some sort of blood feud going into WrestleMania, which I think it ties up that story really well, right? So we've tied up the Miz story, now we've tied up the Drew story, so what do we do with Lashley, who I believe is going to roll into WrestleMania as the champion? We'll insert Keith Lee. Keith Lee was supposed to take on Bobby Lashley in a triple threat with Riddle for the United States Championship. He had to get pulled. You could easily say Keith Lee was going to have a title match against Bobby Lashley, right, at the last pay-per-view, Elimination Chamber, sorry. So he is going to be the number one contender, or you could have him win a number one contenders match on the way there. I think that's the only hiccup, right? When you're dealing with all these different factors, the only two scenarios I truly get to here is Lee getting shoehorned in to take on Lashley in a big spot, or a multi-person match involving Sheamus, Drew, Miz, Lashley. I'm going to go ahead and pin Lashley Lee WWE Championship WrestleMania. I think you could tell 3 stories stemming from the current title picture, 3 WrestleMania stories stemming from the current title picture, all that elevate the feuds, right? Sheamus costing Drew elevates that feud. Bad Bunny ragging on The Miz for losing his championship, that elevates that feud. And then Keith Lee getting a title shot against the guy he was supposed to get a title shot against, that tells a nice story as well. So I dig it. So the first 2 matches, the main event, the co-main event of night 1, Bianca Belair, Sasha Banks, Bobby Lashley, Keith Lee. So now what? Moving on, I'm going to put a SmackDown match on this card now. Tag match, a big-time tag match. The Usos taking on Daniel Bryan and Kevin Owens. I think this is pretty much paint by numbers to this point. I see Jimmy Uso getting involved at some point to cost Daniel Bryan maybe at Fastlane. Kevin Owens still has issue with the Usos as well. So let's Daniel Bryan and Kevin Owens, big-time tag match, giving the Usos a major spotlight to really show Jey Uso how much they appreciate him and what he's had to do with his tag partner being out. Riddle, so next, Riddle, the United States Championship. I have him taking on AJ Styles. It's really hard to put Styles in the spot right now. Again, he's another guy that you could say you could put into a multi-person WWE title match. But instead, I'm going to put him with Riddle. You know that Riddle and he have good chemistry from their SmackDown feud for the IC title. This time, I think Riddle gets a big win over Styles and retains that championship. Next on the card, I have Drew and Sheamus in that street fight. Is what I'm at. No DQ street fight, something along those lines. Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez, I believe, take the titles off of Nia and Shayna. You'll hear more about Nia and Shayna in just a few minutes. And they will defend those titles against Lana and Naomi. Lana's kind of already got her payoff with Nia, pushing her through a table. So now what? Well, let's give them a big spotlight match. And let's highlight the NXT ladies as well. It's really helped carry that show. Ali, Kofi. If Kofi wins, Retribution is done. I think the story there, Kofi Mania, taking Ali's spot, becoming. I think you can put that on the show. And then Rollins and Cesaro, I think, open the show, allowing Rollins and Cesaro to set the tone for WrestleMania weekend and put on an incredible opener for the show, for the weekend. I'm not going to get into pre-show matches. I don't know. You figure that the Raw tag titles or something like that is going to be on the pre-shows, but I'm not getting into that. Night 2, I've already said, Roman and Edge will be the main event. The co-main event, in this case, I think will be The Fiend and Randy Orton. I could also see here Braun Shane being the co-main event. I have both of those matches on Night 2. So I have Braun Shane and The Fiend Randy Orton on this show. So one of those two is the co-main event. I believe The Fiend and Orton will be some kind of stipulated match, but not cinematic, since there will be people in attendance. So keep that in mind. Charlotte, Ripley, Asuka with Ric Flair. I think you bring up Ripley. You let her be the babyface. Charlotte be the tweener. Asuka be the heel with Ric. I think that could be a tremendous match, and it does something for all three of them and involves the championship. Shayna and Nia, I think they lose the titles. They begin to feud. They get their payoff finally at WrestleMania as well. The Street Profits taking on the Dirty Dogs for the championships, allowing the Street Profits and Bianca Belair to have a nice moment, all of them winning championships. The Miz and Morrison taking on Bad Bunny and Damian Priest, we already talked about that. And then the show opener, the Intercontinental title ladder match, Big E taking on Apollo, Sammy, one of the Mysterios, either Dominic or Ray. I'd prefer Dominic, honestly. Nakamura and Corbin. And that's it. I think that is my logical take on where we could get for a WrestleMania card. How would you feel about that? How would you feel? Let me know in the comment section below if that's your 2-night Mania card. Would that make you happy, sad, angry, whatever? Again, the only match I really don't feel that confident in is that WWE title match. Because, again, I could just as easily see them saying, wow, Miz is doing a great job. Let's keep it on him. We'll pivot from Bad Bunny. You could even do Garza and Morrison against Bad Bunny and Damian Priest. You have Sheamus, you have Styles, you have Drew. You have so many people surrounding that WWE title match. They generally don't do Fatal 4-Ways. I remember back in WrestleMania 2000 when they did it, and they had a very similar cowardly heel champion in Triple H at that time. The Miz is a cowardly heel having to take on 3 monsters in a match also makes for a great story as well. So yeah, let me know below again what you think of that WrestleMania card and if you think that could happen. But right now, we have to get to some Twitter questions. So I put out, do you have any questions for my show? Past, present, future, fantasy booking, let me know. Once again, that's on Twitter at @view_raw. And I got quite a few questions, so I'm going to answer them. And, I'll give you a shout out as well at noob_n_co1991. Do you think Asuka's bad booking sparked fan outrage on social media for the past 3 years? How will WWE fix this problem? I'm probably the last person that you should be assuming I think Asuka's had bad booking. She's been champion for the better part of a year. She was the first ever Royal Rumble winner. She's won every major women's title in the WWE. She's had good booking. Could she have some better angles and stories? Absolutely. I think the way you fix this problem is just like you would fix any other division, whether it's the tag division or anything else. Asuka specifically, I think there's the promo issue. I don't think that they trust her to go out and outside of wrestling and matches, they trust her to carry a feud on a microphone. I think putting her with Rick could actually help her career quite a bit, like I think they will do. Next is at AzizulHTJ. That's AZIZULHTJ. What if NXT become their own company, completely separated from WWE? Any possibility of becoming successful? Sure, there's always possibility to be successful. Do I think that separating yourself from a billion-dollar entity that has leverage in television rights negotiations that can make you even more profitable is the best way to do business? No. I think NXT will be fine. I think they're starting to grow some stars down there. I think they're finally starting to let people have personalities a little bit more than normal. So I think NXT will be fine, but I think they would be in a much worse position if they were completely separated from WWE. An old school question from at Silent Eye City. Fantasy booking. What would happen if Pillman turned face and left the Hart Foundation? would he have ever been world champion? I'm of the belief that Brian Pillman, if he wrestled today, would have been world champion. I'm also of the belief that had he not tragically died, a feud for Steve Austin during his babyface run, you would have definitely had a few pay-per-view matches with Brian Pillman as a heel, because they had so much story, they had so much history together, and they meshed so well in the ring. But turning face and leaving the Hart Foundation as a whole, I think you would have probably ended up in a feud with Owen, would be my guess. Could he have ever gotten up to Bret Hart? There's a lot of things that would have been involved there as well. Does Bret end up leaving or not? But I definitely think that Pillman, as a face or a heel, could have been world champion had he not passed away when he did. Who would I book to beat Roman Reigns for the Universal title? This is from at _the architect _1. Nobody ever. I'm just kidding. I think it has to be. I think it has to be an up and comer, or a big return, right? Like, so if you had CM Punk return and defeat Roman Reigns to then, have this major angle move forward, that would be a name. But if I'm looking just specifically in WWE, and I just had to pick somebody, because also let's say you could convince Jon Moxley next year to leave AEW and come back, that's a guy, because you could tell a great story with that. But if I had to pick a guy from WWE or NXT currently, maybe bring up Karrion Kross, and he and Scarlett defeat him. That could be a way, and that would give Kross a major victory over Roman. But honestly, I wouldn't. I don't think I'd take this title off of Roman for at least until SummerSlam. At least. Thoughts on Karrion Kross? I think he's a star in the making. Absolute star in the making. I think his presentation's great. I think his look is great. I think Scarlett's great. He could tighten some things up in the ring a little bit, but he is a star in the making. That was from at Show Dominic. From at Wrestling Rod 316. How you should have booked Keith Lee's NXT title reign. It's tough. I think I would have extended it out a bit more and had Lee just debut at the Royal Rumble. I think they wanted to get him up before the Royal Rumble and see what happened. But unfortunately, some things have happened. He's had to go off TV and on TV and off TV and on TV. But I think I would have had him. Oh boy, I think I would have just had him champion a little bit longer. Give him a couple wins down there. Really leverage that title win. I thought that was a peak moment for NXT last year. Yeah. And then the final question at Vasilos _26. If you're not following Vass, you're missing out on one of the most positive people on all of wrestling Twitter. How would you book Taya's main roster run when she gets there? Well, first off, I think she's going to NXT. But if I was going to book her, she could be used on Raw tomorrow, right? Like if you did let's say you did bring Ripley on TV, you could easily have Taya take out Ripley, and then that that there's a feud there. If you wanted to bring up Ripley and pair Ripley with Asuka, you could have Charlotte and Ripley fight for the number one contendership and have Taya cost Charlotte. That could be an option. I think she's a great talent. I think she's going to fit really well no matter where she goes. It'll be interesting. So thank you all for all your questions. Every Friday, although this is dropping on Saturday, every Friday, I'll answer your questions. Shoot me the questions at view_raw. Let me know down below on Twitter if you want to put your WrestleMania cards, predictions down below. I'll grade them. Let me know on Twitter at view_raw. I will grade all of your WrestleMania predictions. Let me know. I will be back on Monday to drop another show, and until then, be awesome.